Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
We're live. Yeah, we really are. And your dial is set correctly to USAPrepares.com. We're delighted you're here. And we broadcast 2 hours, Monday through Friday, from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains. But we're looking for another place, a safer place to live. So if you've got any suggestions, let us know. We've got a call-in line, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. And if you'd like to listen to USA Prepares as you travel, 605-477-3249. 605-477-3249. John is engineering the broadcast at GCN. I'm Vincent Finelli. Captain John Ragan's with us. Welcome, Captain John Ragan.
Good morning, Vincent.
Hey, John, it's great to hear your voice.
I'm glad I still have a voice.
So what have you been doing for the last week or so?
Just sitting around chatting with a few people. It's been quite a trip, and I do want to thank you because it's very special to trust someone with valuable things, and when you've developed a show that's very important, very easy to destroy, and when you see how with the big boys, they bring in somebody that's got years of talk show host experience, and for you to allow me to take the mic, and then this time was even beyond that. There were some openings that you allowed me to fill, and I did that with people we talked about before, but had never been on USA Prepares, and all of that was done without running to you for permission, and I appreciate that trust, and I hope that we did a good job for you.
Well, I got a chance to listen to some of the broadcasts, and I thought you did a fabulous job, and the instructors that you brought on the air with you did a fabulous job as well. It was great. It was really great. I was so delighted that you were in that seat running the broadcast, and I want to thank you so much because it enabled me to do some things that I would not have been able to do. Winter's coming, as you mentioned on the air. And here at the farm, there's a whole bunch of things that need to be done. I haven't finished all of them, but we're at the point now where I think I'm going to be able to get most of the things done. Let me give you an example. So we have a cattle waterer, and this thing is like a concrete vault. It's like a burial vault, if you will. It's about that size. And it weighs probably more than a burial vault. It has a concrete lid on it. And what you do is you excavate down about 18 inches, and you plant this thing in the ground, and you cover the back part of it with dirt so that the water that's in this concrete cattle waterer doesn't freeze. And then there's underground plumbing to it. Well, the darn thing sank. We put it in over a year ago, and it sank down several inches. So that now the cows, when they go to drink, they drink at ground level, which is too low. Because when they drink at ground level, and there's 100 or so cows drinking, they drip out of their mouths, and the water sits around this thing, and then they stand in the mud. And I don't want them doing that in the winter. I don't want them standing in water when it's freezing outside or way below freezing. So we have to excavate that out. And so those are some of the things that we engineered, how we were going to do it, where we're going to place them, what kind of materials we needed. We're going to move the solar panels from one location to another. And then I was able to buy some of the parts and of course, do maintenance around the farm and farm equipment and so forth. So that's what I had a chance to do. But I wanted to share with you just a simple phone call I made. So we have this Deutz tractor, and it has power steering. It's a big tractor. It's about 90 horsepower. So the back tires are as tall as I am. And so there's a leak coming out of one of the power steering hydraulic cylinders. So I called, and first of all, I looked on the internet. Can't find anything to, the repair parts for this. So I found a Deutz dealer, and the guy said, yeah, there's one at the warehouse. We can get that for you, $147 plus shipping and handling. And I said, that's about $35 if you have a Massey Ferguson tractor for the same parts, right? And he goes, well, yeah. And I said, now this is going to fit, when you ship this is all going to fit in an envelope, right? And he said, yeah. And I said, so where's the $147 come from? And he said, well, this is a Deutz tractor. And I said, yeah, I understand all that. And he said, well, there's some plastic parts in there too. And I said, yeah, and they're going to fit in the same envelope, right? And he said, yeah. And so I said, if you go to Harbor Freight, you can get a box of O-rings, kind of like what's in this little repair kit, except they're thinner and a little bit larger, maybe the size of a silver dollar in the Deutz tractor. But you can get 620 of them or so from Harbor Freight for $6.99. So what's the deal? And he couldn't really explain it to me. Anyway, I have the envelope. I got it from a guy who would sell it to me for $120 plus shipping. And here it is. So I can now fix the hydraulic leak. But it's like that. Buying parts is now really becoming very, very expensive. And it's not just tractors. It's everything you could possibly want to buy parts for that are getting expensive. So I wanted to share that with you. And also, I don't know, should I take the next few minutes and talk about my weekend? Should I talk about that, John?
Might as well get it out of your system.
So at the end of the week, I decided, I should really go to my 45th high school reunion. That's in the East Coast. So it was about 1,100 miles, maybe 1,200. And so my son took, and when we have vehicles here, we don't really consider them ours. I might say my truck, but it's really the family's truck. And so I drive a 2004 Chevy with, maybe close to 250,000 miles on it. And Mrs. Finelli has the one that she drives most of the time, which is the 1999 Mercedes ML320. It came from my mother. It's been passed through the family, and now it's Mrs. Finelli's. And that has 250,000 miles on it. But that one has a constant velocity joint failure on the front axle. So I got the part, and I just haven't fixed it yet. I thought, well, we can't take that. And my son drove off with the Chevy 2004 truck. And I remember as he was pulling out of the driveway, I said, I used to have a truck like that. And off he went. Well, that left a Dodge Cummins turbo diesel, which is just brutal to drive to a long distance. I mean, it's a 3/4 ton truck, and it just pounds you. I didn't want to take that. That left a 2005 Mercedes that we'll call my son's car, my other son's car. And that thing has been problematic. But he left it here because he wanted to take the truck. And so that was the only vehicle we had to take. And it made it all the way to Pennsylvania a couple weeks before and back. I thought, okay, we could do that. And so we put it up on the lift. We have a lift here at the farm. Put it up on the lift, checked everything out, all the fluids, topped off all the fluids, checked for leaks and hoses and the serpentine belt and everything you possibly think of, and it looked great. So even repacked the wheel bearings. Only has 130-something thousand miles on it. So that was probably the safest vehicle to take. So we headed out, stopped in Virginia, and then headed on through Washington, D.C., into Maryland. And I was on Interstate 95. Everything's going great. And I see the smoke. I thought, gosh, somebody's got a big problem. I looked ahead and I didn't see any smoke. I looked to the left and right, I didn't see any smoke. But I saw a lot of smoke in the rearview mirror. And I thought, I don't really smell anything. Then I did. A hint of what smelled like hydraulic fluid. And I thought, man, oh man, this has happened before, and we've replaced all these hoses. It can't be the fourth time that this happens. Well, I was approaching Maryland House, which is like a rest stop, bathroom facilities. You can get some food there, and it's huge. It's in between the north and southbound lanes of Interstate 95. So I thought, that's coming up really close. I may get over to the left. It's a left exit, and this is on the interstate, and there's like 4 lanes of traffic. Cars all over the place. I mean, it was really intense traffic. And the smoke is coming out, and I thought, can't be us, because no one is pointing, slowing down, pointing at our car, saying, hey, your car's on fire. So it couldn't be us. Then I realized it was us. So I tried to get over, finally made it over to the exit for Maryland House, and found a remote parking space there. Left the vehicle there, looked under the hood, and there was no oil. And that's because it all ran out. The oil ran out of, there's a dual hydraulic pump, one for the suspension. And this pump pressurizes hydraulic engine motor mounts and the suspension. There are 4 shock absorbers. Well, I replaced all the shock absorbers a while back and got all of the hydraulics out. And I replaced it with manual shocks and springs from a company called Strutmasters. So if you experience this is a way you consider going, because a shock absorber on one of these Mercedes is about, I don't know, $1,500. Yeah, $1,500. And when we bought this, we paid about 10% of the new car price for it. We paid about what the tax would be when this car was new. So we got it at a very low price. I'll tell you the rest of the story when we come back. Captain John Ragan's with us, and there's a lesson. There's a lesson to be learned here. And that's why I'm going through telling you what happened over the weekend with our travels to the east. Captain John Ragan's with us, and I'm sharing a story about our weekend travels. Mrs. Finelli and I decided to go to my 45th high school reunion. And so I brought the iPad with us. I was given an iPad from many years ago. And so I thought, if I needed to broadcast, I'd just bring my headset and the iPad, and I could find Wi-Fi somewhere and broadcast if I had to. But I also have Skype, so I can talk to some of our instructors who are in North America, but outside of the United States, because I don't have a phone plan that lets me do that. So for $2.99 a month, I can make phone calls to some of our instructors that I can't make with our regular landline phone service. So I had this iPad, and I went into Maryland House. That's where we ended up, and I let our family know that we were somewhat stranded, and we were trying to figure out exactly what the situation was. And so I called Enterprise, and they were unable to get a car for me. And I thought that I'd like to know if I could rent a car. I've never rented one in my entire life, but I thought in case we needed to, I'd like to find out about that. I called U-Haul, and U-Haul was unable to provide they could provide a truck, but they could not provide a car hauling trailer, one with all 4 wheels off the ground when you pull your car. And this particular car is fairly low, so it can't climb a steep incline without getting stuck on the underbelly of the car. So anyway, Mrs. Finelli and I stayed at Maryland House, and we made a bunch of phone calls, and We even called a family friend and to see if we could have that family friend who has a pickup truck with a race car trailer, and if he could come and at least bring us down to Virginia, where we'd have a base of operations where we could then make some phone calls and get our car back home. We rode off the 45th high school reunion. That was, not going to happen. So he was either unwilling or unable to help us. So we called our son in Missouri and said, "Hey, can you come get us with the Dodge Cummins turbo diesel 1999 pickup truck, 4-wheel drive, 3/4 ton, and our farm gooseneck trailer, 26 feet long, very, very heavy, and I'll bring some hydraulic oil and maybe 8 web straps, these heavy-duty straps that you see tractor trailers using to hold down loads, 8 of those, a couple short ones, mostly long ones, and some thinner straps, and some tools, and a roller jack that you might see at a shop use, an automotive shop, and so he said, okay, and I said, don't leave now. Let's wait till the morning, get some sleep, because it's an 1,100, 1,200 mile ride. And so he said, okay. That meant that his brother had to come from his place to our farm to take care of the animals and make sure that my mom and everybody's okay here. So it involved the entire family. Well, the next morning he left, and he decided to make a call and call one of his high school buddies and say, "Hey, would you like to go on a road trip? Here's what's going on." His buddy said, "Well, I don't want you going alone." So the two of them hopped in the truck and off they went. And it was well over 40 hours by the time they got to see us. And when they got to where we were at the Maryland house, we were told that our son's friend had to be back at work at 7 o'clock Monday morning, or he'd lose his job. He has a factory job. So we loaded the car on the trailer and drove home. But here's an important thing that I want to share with you. On the way over, about 500 miles from our house and 500 miles or so, or 600 miles to go to get to where we were, the Dodge engine just didn't shut down completely, but it would not accelerate. So our son was stranded on the side of the road with the gooseneck trailer, the Dodge truck, and he couldn't go anywhere, but the engine would idle. So he called us. He had a cell phone in the truck. And so I looked around to find what the problem might be, and we figured it out. I'll tell you what happened next. Plus, we're talking about a road trip Mrs. Finelli and I went on that involved the entire family. So our son had the Dodge Cummins turbo diesel and the 26-foot gooseneck, and he was in Kentucky. And the engine would not run past idle. So he was stranded on the side of the road on the interstate, and cars and trucks are whizzing by. And it was at night, and he got out this Calium light because he has a toolbox in his truck, and he broke the Calium light and bent it so that it would light up, and it wouldn't because it was old, so that didn't work. So my son and his buddy and I were I was on the iPad doing research, and they figured out, well, we figured out together that was the throttle position sensor. Now, this thing is under the hood. It's like a volume control. So when you step on the accelerator, it's like turning a volume control louder. And when you let off the accelerator, it's like turning the volume control to a softer position. But it became loose. So I found one at AutoZone that was near him, and he placed the call. They had it, and they were able to get it to temporarily fixed. And they went to AutoZone, and I looked at the part online, and I said, I don't think this is the right part, but it was $229 plus tax. And so they went to AutoZone. The guy said, I don't think, it doesn't look like the one on the truck, but it says it's the right one, but there's another one that's probably the right one, but we can't find it. And so my son bought the one, and he used his Discover card. And Discover declined him. Now, it was really my my account with Mrs. Finelli, and our son is on the same account. So our son has a card, and we have cards since 1986. And it's the very first time they shut us down. And they shut us down because I was in Maryland, and Mrs. Finelli and I were starving, and so we bought a pizza. So Discover said, wait a minute, these guys are in Maryland, and the card is going to be used in Kentucky. Obviously, this can't happen, and with a different name on the, on the card. So they shut us down. So our son couldn't buy the part with Discover, but fortunately, he had another method of paying for it. The part, he got it, and continued on his way. And he arrived at Maryland House in Maryland, 12 hours later or so. So then we got the car on the trailer, tied it down, and headed home. And the same thing happened when we were driving again. And this time with a fully loaded truck trailer. And we patched it, and we finally made it home with 2 hours to spare. And our son's friend was able to make it to work, and everything looks good. But the reason I'm telling you all this is because even if you're prepared, these kinds of things can happen. And you're at the mercy of other people. And that's like the worst possible thing. So, we had family friends. That wouldn't help us. We had, another thing I forgot to tell you, that during the trip, before the Dodge had a problem, the Dodge truck, and the engine wouldn't run past idle, one of the wheel bearings on the truck seemed to be loose. So my son and his friend pulled over into a rest stop and jacked up the trailer. This trailer weighs 5,500 pounds. Jacked it up because he had a jack and the tools, adjusted the wheel bearings, repacked one of the wheel bearings on the trailer, and off he was, half hour later. So you can have everything you need and still have all kinds of problems because of other people. And who are those other people? Well, it'd be U-Haul telling us, we should have made reservations 8 days in advance or a week in advance for the trailer. Obviously, we didn't know we were going to need it. We would have brought a trailer with us. And it was miserable. A pizza, if you wanted one slice of a pizza at Maryland House, it's $5.69. With taxes, close to $6 for a slice of pizza. They had a hot dog meal deal. You get 2 small hot dogs, a small bag of French fries, and a drink for $11.69 plus tax. And you are absolutely at the mercy of people when you travel if you break down. So we were, I called Discover yesterday when we finally got back to the farm, and I said, they wanted to know who I was, and they wanted to make sure that these were bona fide transactions. And I said, yeah. Have you ever had a problem with us? We've been with you. Check this out, please. Does it say 1986 that we've been with you? Yeah. Does it say that you've ever had a single problem with us? We haven't paid our bills, that we are any kind of a problem whatsoever? No, you're fine. Are we like one of your very best customers in terms of not causing you problems? Yes, you are. Okay. So why'd you shut us down? Well, it's a system. I said, so what does the system look at? Well, it's very complicated, and I can't tell you because it's so complicated. And I said, well, so tell me why I should have Discover be the first card in my wallet when you shut me down and we're stranded. So not only was I stranded, our son was stranded. I mean, we were really, really in trouble because how do you tow a truck with a 26-foot trailer? What do you do? How do you resolve that situation? Do you get a tractor trailer? And how do you get the truck on the tractor trailer? I mean, it's a huge problem. And Discover made it worse. And then AutoZone sold us the wrong part. And that made it worse. So it was a no fun adventure. It was a challenge, but I believe, and I said to Mrs. Finelli, this happened for a reason. I think this is a nice little test to see how well we do, and see how our friends can help us. And so what we're learning, John, there are very, very few friends that we have who are really there for us. Very, very, very few. And I'm wondering if you're seeing the same thing in your life, John.
Well, it seems like everything's me, 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 me.
You're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. Now, I believe had I called Mike Parsons, who was within, he has a trailer and he has a truck, but I don't think his truck is fully operational. But I believe if he were able to come, he would have been there. I believe Joey would have, in Michigan, would have been there had I called him, but he was too far away, so I didn't call him. I believe if Miles weren't in Europe, he would have come. I believe Ed Marvini, if he had the equipment, would have come. But if they couldn't come, I believe they would have been on the phone trying to figure out a way to get equipment to us so that we could have been rescued. I believe Ricky would have been on the phone. I believe you would have been on the phone. What I'm saying is, but there are very few, John. There are very few people. And the guy with the trailer in the truck wouldn't or couldn't help us. And he was just an hour and a half away. So I think we're headed toward more of me first. And what I saw in Maryland, and this is just outside of Washington, D.C., this is a different culture. Almost all of the vehicles were new. Almost all of them. And most of them, well, I should say many of them, were banged up. Side swipes. Not so much front rear collisions, but side swipes. Relatively new vehicles. I mean, I'm thinking 5 years old or newer. Nothing like what we have, Our newest vehicle is 11 years old. That'd be our son's vehicle is 11 years old, but that'd be the newest. Mine is mine's a 2004. That'd be my newest vehicle. But my other daily driver is a 1994. So we have old vehicles, but that's not what I saw in Washington, D.C. I saw there is so much money there, it's unbelievable. All these new little shiny cars with dents in them from trying to push each other around on the road. And these are the people who we previously looked to for leadership and laws and representation. And these are the government minion types that we so despise today. And these are the same people that wouldn't even let me change lanes when the car was smoking like it was on fire in the middle lane. They wouldn't let me go right or left. These are the same people. And during this trip, we saw some more of this me first stuff. We saw tractor trailers riding our bumper. I mean, even when we're doing the speed limit, they're right on top of us. We saw other cars passing us on the right, passing us on the left. So if you do the speed limit and you obey the traffic ordinances and laws, there are people who will do 85 miles an hour in a 70 mile an hour zone. 70 miles an hour is plenty fast. Why does someone need to go 85? Why? I don't know. And it's dangerous. It's dangerous because they fly up on you. And the other thing is, since we were driving at night, there's no shortage of people who will drive in the oncoming lanes with their high beams on. And they absolutely, positively can't figure out how to turn the high beams down to the regular driving beams. They can't seem to do that. They have to blind you as you're coming toward them. It's outrageous what we're doing to each other. Not we, them, what they're doing to us. But these people are so important around Washington, D.C. It's an outrage. At least they feel they are important. They feel that they are important. They feel that whatever they're doing is more important than everybody else. And the heck with everybody else. So the more I see this, John, the more I want to stay home. The more I just want to live in my own little world. I don't want to be exposing our family to any more of this danger than is absolutely positively necessary. If we don't need to do it, I don't want to do it. I don't want to go out on the roads unless I absolutely positively have to. And this kind of attitude that these me-firsters have has destroyed the old American, let's go for a ride. Let's Let's get in the car and just go for a ride on the weekend, like people used to do in the 1960s, the 1950s. There was a love affair with our automobiles. Now it's dangerous, absolutely dangerous. There's a post on the internet about this 22-year-old who was traveling 115 miles an hour, 115 miles an hour in a Volkswagen Golf. I didn't know they went that fast. And he crashed into another vehicle, and he got killed, his passenger got killed, and so did others. It's absolutely needless. We'll be right back. So we're talking about our adventure over the weekend, and we traveled with extra clothes. We had a blanket. Now we slept in the car for 2 days, and I had a razor, and so we could take bird baths in the rest area, and we slept in the car, and but no heat because we couldn't run the engine because we destroyed the hydraulic pump. Well, very quickly, I counted just before the broadcast. I ran outside and counted the number of buttons and switches, I should say, controls. 97 buttons and switches and controls accessible to the driver and the passenger from the front seat of this car. That doesn't include the ones in the back. There are 7 different antenna segments in the back window. That does not include the back window de-icer. So I'd like to go to a Mercedes and say, I'd like to meet with one of your guys, and I'd like to look at one of these new vehicles just to see what they're like. And would you, do you have somebody who can explain what all these switches and dials and knobs do? Because I'd like to know, before I take one for a test drive. Not that I'd ever buy one, but can you imagine? I'll bet you they don't have a single person there at the Mercedes dealer who can say, yeah, sure, let me show you what each one of these things does. And then some of these buttons, about 20 of them, control a screen. And that has further use of redefinitions of these buttons. It's absolutely crazy. And I'll bet you most of the Mercedes customers that have these vehicles with all these dials and switches, I'll bet you they don't know more than a quarter of what they do. Kyle, welcome. Kyle in Montana, welcome.
Glad to have you back, but I got to say, John did an incredible job.
Isn't he great? I am great. So fortunate. Oh, by the way, Kyle, I'll bet you would have been there to help me too. If I had called you, if you were, closer than, a couple thousand miles away, you would have said, "Hey, Vinny, I'll be there. I'll be there with my Chevy turbo diesel, and let me round up a trailer, and I'll be there." Is that correct or not?
I had your back, Vince. There ain't no doubt about it. But I heard when you said something about going through Washington, D.C., men out here in the West, we've heard stories about people that go into Washington, D.C. We heard 4 things that they say happen if you happen to go into that city. And I heard that they get a lobotomy, a big yellow stripe down their back. They cut their vocal cords so they sound whiny, and they put you on welfare.
Yeah.
Oh man, I was afraid for you there for a little while when you said you was going through Washington D.C. Man, what a horrible trip, though.
It's dangerous. It really is dangerous because there doesn't seem to be. I don't see gentlemen there. As a matter of fact, Mrs. Finelli and I were at a gas station in Virginia, and there was a single woman there, probably, I'm guessing in her 30s or so, and she was in her little Japanese car, and she was at the air pump, and then it looked like there was another gal from inside the gas station trying to help her put air in her tire. And, we were there, and we saw this, and so I got out of the car, and I was really careful how I got out of the car, and I said, do you need any help? And the girl who had the owner of the car said, yeah, this air pump just let all the air out of my tire, and I can't put air in it. And I said, would you like me to help you? And she said yes. So the ground was wet, and I was on the ground, and it was really hard to put air in this tire because the valve seal on the end of the hose was so worn that it leaked air, and she leaked all the air out of her tire. And I got it up to about, maybe 20-something pounds before I gave up. But the gal who worked at the store said, "Wow, a real man." And I said, "Well, you may not be right. I could be one of these transgender types." She said, "No, you're a real man." And I thought that was kind of interesting because I was sitting on, in the water helping someone who had a tire problem. And I guess they're not used to that. I guess that's what it is. Kyle, did you have anything else?
No, I'm just going to say welcome back.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And for the kind words for John. We'll be right back after top of the hour news and commercial announcements. John has a full schedule today for you, and I derailed all of that by talking about our adventure. So we'll be right back with Captain John Ragan, the financial state of the union. Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Hour number 2 of USAPrepares.com. Just a short announcement before we get into John Ragan's class, Captain John Ragan's class. November 5th and 6th, gun shows, 6 of them, rkshows.com. Where are they? If you need to top off your supplies or get that defense item for what may lie ahead, Little Rock, Arkansas, Oklahoma City, Somerset, Kentucky, Marietta, Georgia, Kingsport, Tennessee, and Lebanon, Missouri. That's where they are. rkshows.com if you'd like to attend the weekend gun show. So, John, I looked up Maryland House, and it's at maryland.gov, believe it or not. So it's the Maryland Transportation Authority that runs this. And the Maryland House, where we were guests for 2 days, it's a $30 million complex along Interstate 95, 42,000 square foot facility. It features food from Wendy's, and Phillips Seafood, and Dunkin' Donuts, and Jerry's Subs and Pizza, and Nathan's Famous Hot Dogs, and others, okay? And I wanted to share with you something that, and they're bragging about. They have free Wi-Fi. Yeah, it is so poor that you cannot make a phone call using their Wi-Fi. Well, you can, but you can only get one-word responses after about 5 or 6 seconds delay from the other party when you're trying to hear them. Anyway, they have a restroom area. It's huge. It's huge. And they have these urinals there, and I want to talk about these urinals for just a few seconds. These urinals are shaped kind of like a tapered 5-gallon bucket, and they use no water. They have this liquid in them. I looked them up. They use this liquid that looks like water. It's clear, but it weighs less than water. So the urine will travel down through this, and this liquid acts as a air trap or a gas trap, so the bathrooms don't smell so bad. But there is no handle to flush. There is no automatic sensor to flush it for you. There is no way to flush this toilet. None. No way whatsoever. So, and these things are like the size of a 5-gallon bucket, which means that you can't get close to it, which means that there's always liquid on the floor right underneath it. And I don't think that liquid is anything other than urine. And it's in front of all of these urinals. So what they do is they have a staff that is constantly mopping the floor. And they have this huge fan in there to blow air in there, to circulate air, because otherwise it'd probably choke a horse. Because there is no way to flush these toilets. The only way to flush the toilet, if you wanted to flush it, is you'd have to bring a bucket of water or a garden hose to hose these urinals off. And maybe that's what they do. But they have staff there all the time cleaning them. How do I know? Because I spent 2 days there. I know. Now, normally you go into a place like, one of these roadside places to rest stops. You get in, you do whatever you got to do, and you get out. Well, I was there analyzing this for 2 days. This is a government morass with these urinals. Who thought of that? Whose idea was it to have a facility where you can't flush the toilet and have the toilet be cleaner? Well, not the toilets, the urinals. Toilets actually flush. But anyway, I just want to share that with you, John. That's just more government. And they're saving water, which is wonderful, but at the expense of not being able to flush the toilets. John, back to you.
And just wait until they enforce the saving, putting the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. That's going to be real painful.
Yeah. Well, actually, years ago, I was at a rest stop. This was a government-run rest stop. And there was a little sign that said, and this was in the stalls, and it said, now it's something to the effect that just because the water in the toilet looks kind of brown, it's not water. It's an oil. And what they do is they recycle the oil. Somehow, the oil carries the waste materials away from the toilet into some kind of a processing station. And then the oil is somehow filtered and it comes back to flush the next time. So it's not water. And that was not at Maryland House. That was at another place years ago. So they're trying all kinds of ways of using less water. And I think it's a great idea. But I don't think the idea of not having toilets that can be cleaned is really a good idea. I think that's dangerous from a health perspective. So I just wanted to share those thoughts with our class today. So, John, where would you like to go?
Well, I want to remind, I do have the new website, eze33.org, a whole lot easier to type in than the Financial State of the Union. And when you click on the news tab there, it'll get you to the right place. And it was this time last week that we had Mike from Hear the Watchman on, and I got an email from him last night. And I've had a chance to hang around Mike a little bit, and I know his heart, and he really likes to do whatever he can to celebrate veterans, and give them a break for the service they've done to this country. And quite often veterans get screwed even worse than the ordinary citizen. And he told the story. There's this vet, has a wife, 2 autistic children. He's spent 20 years in the Air Force, enlisted, and he left the Air Force and was going to be working for this contractor when the government decided to pull the contract. So he doesn't have a job. He's got increased medical expenses, and lost their home, and it's not a good situation. And what I wrote about this, if this guy or this were a gay Muslim couple in the country illegally, there'd be plenty of assistance for him. But to this administration, they're just garbage to be kicked to the side of the road. And it just is so infuriating to me. So, Mike's confirmed this guy's situation. And even if you're not able to provide any kind of financial support, I've got a link here, and if you would share that on your social media, we would all appreciate it. And that link is a GoFundMe account. So it's GoFundMe.com/Mission Christian, MISSION CHRISTIAN. And certainly it's going to a good cause, and this is not one of those where somebody puts up a GoFundMe taking advantage of somebody else's misfortune.
John, we're seeing more misery outside of Washington, D.C. We really are. Pretty much everywhere we look, there are people who are having trouble. Guy came up to me. It was probably 2:00 in the morning, and I was looking for a way for our son to get into Maryland House. So Mrs. Finelli and I were out there looking for a way to get him in with the trailer if he came in from the north side to get us to where we were in the south side. And because there's places for cars, and it's hard to turn around, and it's hard to make these tight turns with a long trailer. So we're out there, and this guy came up to us and said his credit card doesn't work, and he was kind of having trouble. And I said, yeah, so we're having trouble too. And he wanted to know if we had any cash, and we had some. But if we gave him our cash, we'd be even worse shape. So we had to make that choice, and we said, there's some people inside, maybe they'll have an answer for you, but we're stranded here ourselves on the other side of this complex or this building, and, we'd like to help you, but we can't right now. And so we're seeing a lot of that. We saw a number of people who were having difficulties, and literally, I would have spent my entire day, 2 days there, helping people get their cars started. I'm talking about the few who had older vehicles that would pull in there and they had, mechanical trouble or engine trouble or electrical trouble or couldn't start their cars. I mean, it would have been a full-time job for me if I had all the tools, if I had a shop, just getting these people back on the road. It was unbelievable. And there was looked like nobody was there to help anybody. That's pretty sad. And I think that's another commentary on where we're headed. John, I see at the financialstateoftheunion.com news tab, I'm there. You've got a story about Louisville. I went through Louisville, and I got to tell you, for the last 11 years, going through Louisville on the interstate, I've seen more construction. I have no idea where all this money's coming from. I mean, it's like nonstop construction around Louisville. What's going on? What's the story about surveillance and control in Louisville? Can you tell us when we get back?
We'll get to this after the break, but it's going to be one of the first spy cities in America.
There goes Louisville. Captain John Ragan, and I'll be right back. Class Captain John Ragan's with us, and a special thank you, John, for all that you've done to help me in this broadcast, and I really, really appreciate it. Class, we're looking for some instructors. Rocket stoves. Do you know how to build one? Fire brick. How to make it? Fire clay. How to use it? Also, instructors for teach us how to import from China, how shipping from China works, how to get insurance for products you buy from China, and the pitfalls of working with companies that make products in China. If you get a chance to give us a call or email me, Vincent@usapreparers.com, Vincent@usapreparers.com. John Ragan, Louisville.
I entitled the section Looney Louisville, and it has 6 articles, 2 of them which are video reports from ZDNet, and that's a computer site. The Ziff Davis publication goes back a long way, and it's probably best known for PC Magazine, which is how I learned about how the PCs worked. They came out while I was out of the country, and I used them for years, just keeping current. Well, Louisville is a hotbed for, the smart city plan. And, of course, I've replaced smart with spy. And it talks about, the light side of the force here, if you will. The good things that you can do with this technology. And it's collecting devices from GPS-enabled asthma inhalers. It provides air quality information, which can help people. And I love the idea of it. Help citizens, might as well say peons, with breathing conditions. They also use wireless smoke detectors in vacant and abandoned properties, and this alerts firefighters before a fire becomes noticeable to somebody that's in an inhabited structure. So, yeah, there's some uses that are beneficial, but like I say, when I put my military hat on and look at how this type of technology can be weaponized, it's really frightening. Louisville is purposely going the smart city route. It's integrating, the Internet of Things or the Internet of Everything. So they are basically going to, look at everything that goes on. They say that their digital transformation plan have had the most success in two areas, and that's in digital health and in maker spaces. The makers are, they call it the citizen scientists at the grassroots, but it also includes, part of the public-private partnership, again, leaving the people out of the process. And in order to do this, of course, you have to have a good internet infrastructure. So the fourth article in there is the path to becoming a gigabit city, because you're going to need high-speed broadband in order to collect this volume of information. The first video is from the young woman that's in charge of this for the city. Looks like she hasn't been out of college too long, and she's really excited about all the possibilities. The second video is one of ZDNet's editors talking about how the Spy City can be used. And ZDNet, or excuse me, I guess a CNET, another site, computer organization, has a model spy home there. So I'll try to wrap this up so we can get to other articles when we get back from the break.
Yeah, it's quite frightening. And, Discover, when they shut down my card, they said, well, you should have called us when we shut your card down. I said I didn't have a cell phone. Captain John Ragan's with us. EZE33.org. EZE33.org. Just wanted to mention very quickly, we're talking about the Spy City, Louisville. And Discover told me that, they could have sent me a message if I had a cell phone that my card was declined. Well, our son knew instantly that our card was declined because it was declined right then and there. So what they said was if I had a cell phone, they could have sent me a message and I could have called them right then and there to get it turned back on. Well, I said, why'd you decline it in the first place? And they couldn't tell me. They couldn't tell me why. But what they were trying to make me feel like I was substandard by not having a cell phone. Like everybody has a cell phone. So if you had one, you wouldn't have this problem. That's not true. I had the problem because they caused the problem. Discover caused the problem. It's not like we don't pay our bills. It's like their computer algorithm thought that me buying a pizza in Maryland and my son trying to buy an auto part in Kentucky couldn't possibly happen, even though they've issued multiple cards on that same account from multiple people. Even though it's possible that we could travel in different directions and use the card at a similar time, not exactly the same time, but near in time to each other, that it would be a bona fide charge. It'd be bona fide. But no, they shut us down. So they're working, John, to make us feel like we are wrong by not having all of this technology that we are tethered to. And I object to it. Mike in Tennessee, welcome.
Vincent, and greetings, John. It's good to hear your voice. And I just wanted to mention to you along those trials you've dealt with, never forget, if you're near a enterprise that has a truck rental, you could have rented a 1-ton truck, hooked up the gooseneck trailer to it, put the truck on the gooseneck trailer, borrowed a 16-foot car hauler, put the car on it, and legally you can haul 2 trailers across all those states as long as you're beneath or less than 65 feet total length.
65.
Just a thought. I've actually seen somebody. I've seen somebody do that one time.
I've seen it too. You're absolutely right. But Enterprise didn't have anything like that for us. We couldn't get a car hauler. But that's a really good point, Mike. And I know you are a master at innovation, and we had an instructor called the Real MacGyver. I think you're the Real MacGyver.
No. I'm just a student of MacGyver. But if at any time you ever have a need, just reach out and you'll be provided for. Just reach out. I noticed something though. I've been listening, and I've listened, and I've noticed some recent ad addition to your show. Everything from blood pressure to constipation, erectile dysfunction, to attorneys for those unable to manage their own affairs. And now it's obvious that not anyone that is the rank and file survivalist and prepper would need that, because they're independent, self-sufficient, self-governing. Therefore, the only thing I can conclude is that they're targeting the government types who are now listening to your show as part of their job. So welcome aboard, all the alphabet crew. I want to welcome you aboard, and listen intently, because you're going to learn the skills that you need to survive after the collapse of the corporate government. But in the meantime, apparently, those new listeners, obviously the advertisers believe that they're full of, they're unable to satisfy their wives, and as in such, they're in need of attorneys to take their money because they are clueless to the solutions, which we all know. It's just being independent, self-sufficient, self-governing. That will make you physically and mentally fit. Am I wrong?
What we teach here is exactly that. We're teaching physical fitness. We're teaching making your body strong. We're teaching independence, self-sufficiency, having the tools and the resources, and making sure that we don't waste money. Those are the things. I mean, those are just a few of the things that we teach. And I got to tell you, Mike Parsons in Tennessee, that had I not had some of these skills, had I not taught and worked with our son to learn some of these skills, all of our children, it would have been very difficult for us to get through this. Because if you think about it, one of our sons who was driving the Dodge truck, who had the throttle position sensor fail on the truck, he was able to determine that within probably 30 minutes without a computer, without one of those onboard testing computers, onboard diagnostic computer testers. He didn't have one. But that's something that I'm going to buy. I'm going to buy a tester, a small, and you can get it for like $20. And I'm going to have one for each vehicle that has a computer, because when the computer shut down, what do you do? How do you figure out what's wrong with these computer-controlled cars now? So if we had one, we would have been able to determine that within, 3 minutes. Instead, it took 10 times longer.
And you were talking about Louisville becoming a spy city. Well, considering that one Bob Kovaci lives in Louisville, it's a spy city already.
He's the guy that has been threatening you. As a matter of fact, Bob Kovaci threatened to kill you. Is that right?
Yeah, he threatened to kill me and turn the Supreme Court Justice of the Chilcote Nation into the, if the local RCMP beat cop arrived, he would wet his pants at first and then proceed to, there she is, you want her. That's the kind of stuff you got that's a lieutenant colonel from the U.S. Air Force or Army or whatever he was. Obviously, the guy can perform when he's got overwhelming odds and military power to go up against people that are disarmed in foreign countries out in the middle of the desert. But when it comes to dealing with one mano a mano, it's a different story, I guess.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, quick question. I mentioned, I don't know if you heard that, had I called you and would you have been willing to help me at Stranded in Maryland?
You would have been provided for instantly, just seriously. You would have had at your disposal whatever was available instantly.
There you go. There you go. And that's what this is really about. You need to develop these kinds of relationships in your life to help someone, and you know, help them, and they help you. And it's without saying, yeah, I'll do this for you, but you're gonna owe me big time. That never occurs in any of the conversations that we have with our instructors. John Ragan, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, the feet never get paid by the hands because the feet has to take the body to the location for the hands to pick the fruit off the tree. And then the mouth, well, it's totally dependent upon the feet and the hands to feed it, and of course the whole body. So, yeah, you can view it any way you want to, but you're basically providing, when you help your neighbor, you're helping yourself.
You know,
you're paying it forward, and you're helping yourself.
I would like to share this thought. I called John Ragan and asked him if he would like to take the broadcast for a few days. And never in the discussion, never did John Ragan say to me, all right, but you're going to owe me big time. You know, I'm going to remember this, and you remember this, Vinny, because, I'm going to do this. No, that never occurred. What did occur was when we first started this broadcast today, John Ragan thanked me. He thanked me for trusting him. He did all the work, and he's thanking me. That's kind of who we are. And really, the thanks go to him.
Yeah, John is a trooper. John is a true trooper who goes above and beyond to help out as needed, when needed. And not only does he fill in, but he provides so much quality information that if people aren't familiar with some subject that he might pull out there, you're not only going to hear about the subject, you're going to hear in-depth analysis of the subject.
And the relationship to past experiences that Captain John Ragan had when he was either studying in school or had experiences on the work site, or when he served at the Pentagon. Absolutely. So, John, thank you. Thank you so much. Mike, anything else?
Have a great day, and just anytime you're in need, just reach out.
Mike, thank you. And I received your phone messages, and I will call you later. When I finally got home after a nonstop drive, I just collapsed.
Yeah.
And
enough said. Just holler when you get a chance, and I'll share with you some information of something local that might benefit you.
Great. Hey, thank you so much, Mike Parsons.
Have a great day. God bless, John.
Thank you.
John Ragan, back to you.
Well, let me just quickly wrap up on the Louisville. A couple of things they're be using this for is keeping track of things like traffic and pedestrian volumes. And, of course, it's not just doing counts of vehicles and people. You can be sure that there's also facial recognition in there as well. They're going to know pretty much where everybody is at all times. And unfortunately, if we bypass the war scenario, this is the future not only of Louisville and the United States, but the world. I do want to skip on down the bigger picture, try and get those in before we run out of time today. And the first article there, we've been scammed. And the title is "The Closed Door Button on Your Elevator is a Scam. Manufacturers reveal buttons make no difference. The close button in an elevator has been obsolete since the 1990s. It's also true for crosswalks in New York City, some office thermostats, and basically these types of devices promote the illusion of control. And that got me to thinking about how many other ways they're using this against us. We've talked about our cell phones, how even when you supposedly turn them off, they're still on and can be used to surveil you either with audio, video, or both. And, given what's coming up a week from today, they allow us to vote, so we think we have some bit of control. And perhaps right now we still do have a small bit of control.
John, I've got a comment on what you said about the crosswalks and the elevator buttons when we come back. Captain John Ragan, EZE33.com. Captain John Ragan's with us. John, you mentioned elevator door buttons, the ones that you see where you can attempt to close the door on an elevator. Now, the only reason I can think of to try to use that button is you see someone coming down the hall and you go, I don't want them to get on the elevator with us. Let me close the door before they get on. That'd be one reason. Another reason is if a person is late and they say, it's taking 3 seconds, 4 seconds, let me hit this button to see if I can close this door a little faster. Those are the only two reasons I can think of at the moment as to why someone would use those. But you're right. They don't seem to have any apparent connection to the elevator circuitry to close the door any faster in the last, since the 90s. Crosswalks. And if you look at those crosswalk buttons, they're worn out. I mean, I've seen them in cities and they have you can see a lot of wear on those buttons. And when you push them, there's no tactile feel. There's like a spring on the end of this button. You push it in, but you don't hear it go click. You don't hear it thunk. You don't hear it make any sound at all other than be pushed in. Now, there are switches that have these wiper-type contacts where the two contacts wipe against each other and clean, self-cleaning. But for years, and I'm thinking 20 years at least, these crosswalk buttons don't seem to have much effect at all. And I believe you're absolutely right.
Well, let me quickly talk about the last two in bigger picture and the first one on employment. Lithuanians given instructions, Americans given theater. The Lithuanian government's handed out a 75-page manual telling them what to do in case Russia invades. The Arctic Nazis we talked about with Doc Ram on Thursday. We know about the Nazi base at the South Pole, but here apparently the Nazis were on the north side as well, trying to find artifacts. And in the employment section, manufacturing returns without the jobs. And it talks about this plant that had closed, used to employ 600 people on 2 shifts. And they sent the jobs to China and brought it back. So now they've got a brand new plant running 24/7, 365 days a year with just 14 employees. Vincent?
14 employees. I'm looking at this factory. So it looks like there's a guy driving a forklift. Oh, I'm looking at Ford is going to lay off 13,000 hourly workers. You want to talk about that as well? Did I lose you, John?
Yeah, we might as well talk about it. Up in the financial section, we got the GDP election magic where they said last quarter GDP 2.9%, even though freight index continued to decline. And now Ford is going to be closing its plants temporarily, sending 13,000 people to the sidelines.
Okay. And so these large companies are shedding employees, and I also believe large companies are starting to lie more to us. Now, for example, Flying J. I pulled into a Flying J to buy some fuel, and I don't like Flying J, but I had a trailer, and it's hard to turn around in these smaller stations. And there was a sign, $2.49.9 per gallon of diesel, and it was $2.19 in Virginia. So it kept going up as we kept going west. Well, we pulled in and pulled up to the pump, and the pump says 270.9. The big signs out front that are illuminated say 249. And I went in, my son went in, and my son and I, without saying a word, we wanted to talk to the manager, like, what are you guys up to? And the manager says, yeah, well, that's the price we charge truck drivers. We don't, we charge more to cars. So if you want to pull up to that pump, and the sign says, they're for trucks. And we said, no, the sign doesn't say that. The sign doesn't say anything about that. So what I'm saying is now companies are lying to us about even the prices. So class, be careful about terms, conditions, prices. You know, the sign may say one thing, but the pump says something else. And that doesn't just mean gas and fuel prices. It could be everything. You might see a sign that says one price and you go to agree to it and you find out you're being charged more. If that happens, dispute it with your credit card, if your credit card still works. Captain John Ragan, any thoughts?
Just call it a day.
John, thank you so much for sitting in for me. You do such a great job, and thank you for all your hard work. Class, above all, honesty and integrity. What happens next is up to you.